Right now at 5, a suspect from Cherokee County, Kansas is considered armed and dangerous.
We got a cold one on our hands for a Tuesday morning that include frost advisories and freeze warnings. The latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, Governor Kevin Stitt wants to attract a company that could bring tens of thousands of jobs to Oklahoma.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning. How are you? Hope you're doing all right. Welcome to the KOAM Morning News. Don't you start with me. It's 5 a.m. Don't you start with me at 5 a.m. I am Chris Warner. We are not going to go over to Michael Hayslip because he is starting with me at 5 a.m.
It's cold.
Don't remind us, all right? Everybody at home, they're waking up, they're inside, they're in their pajamas, they're under their covers, they've got that blanket on the sofa, they have no idea what it is outside. We can scare them later.
Well, I tell you what, then I will find our silver lining and I will paint us a pretty picture for a Tuesday morning, because we have 40s right now in Chanute and Parsons. We've got 37s in Neosho and Monette. That's not too bad. We also have 31s below the old magic number in Iowa and Fort Scott. So that brings us to everybody's in the midst of a frost advisory for the most part, minus southeast Kansas right there. But more importantly than the frost advisories, we actually in the turquoise even have freeze warnings, and geographically it is expansive, stretches all the way up to the Nebraska-Kansas state line, then the Iowa-Missouri state line, all the way east into portions of Indiana. So that's yeah, look at that. And Chris, look at that. It keeps going. We get a little break there in Indiana. We pick back up in Ohio and stretch it all the way into West Virginia. My goodness, it's cold Midwest right now. The Skywatch Storm Tracker, void of any cloud cover or precipitation. Of course, the lack of cloud cover is why we drop down so cold overnight. Now, our weather trend actually got up. I registered a 61 yesterday, so I mean it wasn't too bad when the wind wasn't a-blowing, but it'll be nice to get a little warm up here. Here's what that comes with though. As the cold front recedes and moves off to the east, it does present us with warmer temperatures and also added instability. And so while we'll consistently see the low 60s later on this afternoon coming off of those freeze warnings we have right now, we're also going to begin midweek rain. That'll come in the form of late afternoon, early evening, as it comes in sporadically, more so for the north central portion of the 4 states. Then Wednesday morning, we get much more widespread to the tune of some good old-fashioned thunderstorm activity for mid-Wednesday morning, working its way through bouts of heavy rain, thunder, and lightning as everything really lasts up until Thursday morning. Now, with that being said, each and every afternoon we do continually get warmer. Overnight lows aren't going to be a problem anymore. And finally, Chris, by the time we get to Friday, end off this work week, our rain chances will taper off after we get through the bulk of it tomorrow morning into the afternoon, and 82 sunny skies on Friday. The frost and freeze advisories and warnings will be a thing of the distant past.
I certainly hope so, because, and I know everybody at home certainly hopes so,
yes,
because we're in the middle of April. Now, don't get me wrong, I've lived here long enough to know it can get cold even into May.
That's why you don't put your layers away yet, really until June 1.
That's usually pretty good.
That's when I'll get out the
advice.
plastic bucket and put away the winter clothes.
So out of curiosity, speaking of winter clothes, who came up with all those nice pretty colors for the advisories?
Pretty colors for what?
The advisories. Like the colors are so bright and happy.
You want to get me started on this?
I certainly do.
Did you, Chris, for those of you that don't know at home, Chris is very in tune to the weather. He'd be a marvelous weatherman. He's done weather before. Did you notice on January 1 they changed them?
No. See, that now I'm not as in tune as I used to be. Now I'm
I just wish they'd come up with. I just wish they'd hit a consistent system and stick with it.
Did you know, and I saw this, WTMJ Milwaukee actually encouraged me to look up our numbers because they had a post on this on Facebook. We were warmer on Christmas Day than we were on Easter Sunday.
I believe that. Our Christmas was abnormally warm.
Oh, it was.
Yeah,
and
it was beautiful.
It boggles the mind when you think back to that, because we had a midnight high of around 70 on Christmas Day, hitting to the 60s by the afternoon. And Easter, we had a midnight high of about 50 and stayed in the 40s through most of the day.
Well, and you bring up a great point here, because we were doing our 10-day true end, he said, as he frantically knew that he had it pulled up earlier. We were talking about our 10-day trend that I'll throw at you. Our average high for the month of April so far, 66.4 degrees. That's not too bad. That's really not too far off of normal, just a touch below. But when you look at it, you go back to last week, and that's where we really picked up on Sunday and Tuesday, being up around 80 and 81. But then once we hit the weekend here, and that includes Easter Sunday, from Saturday down to Tuesday, we've only barely scraped 60. Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. Well, hopefully we're going to be on the side of those temperatures.
We're due for it. I'm looking forward to Friday.
Oh,
80
gosh,
degrees,
me
sunny
too.
skies. Yes, please.
Me too.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Michael, thank you so much for giving us something to look forward to. 34 state news, the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office says the suspect in a Baxter Springs shooting should be considered armed and dangerous. An arrest warrant was issued yesterday afternoon for 38-year-old Sean Houston. He's wanted on allegations of attempted second-degree murder. Now, shortly after midnight on Monday, deputies were dispatched to investigate a shooting west of Baxter Springs. According to the sheriff's office, emergency medical personnel transported a man to a Joplin area hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. Now, in their investigation, detectives identified Houston as a suspect. Anyone with information about his location should contact Cherokee County Sheriff's Office. An afternoon fire destroyed a home and more in Columbus, Kansas. It happened in Northwest Orchard Lane and 6th Street. In addition to the house, 2 storage trailers were destroyed. Columbus firefighters say no injuries were reported. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly vetoed a proposed ban on transgender athletes in girls and women's sports. The Republican-controlled legislature previously approved a proposed ban with solid majorities in both chambers. However, neither had the 2/3 majority needed to override the veto. Governor Kelly rejected a similar bill last year. State investigators in Kansas have identified a woman killed in an exchange of gunfire. Kansas Bureau of Investigation says 32-year-old Andrea Barrow of Arkansas City, Kansas, was killed Friday in Cowley County after she pulled out a handgun as deputies tried to remove her from a vehicle. Investigators said 2 of the deputies are recovering at home. At last report, a 3rd remained hospitalized in good condition. Authorities say the deputies were responding to a call about a suspicious vehicle when Barrow pulled out the gun and, quote, gunfire was exchanged. Hundreds of high-paying jobs are coming to a new plant in northeast Kansas. Scorpion Biological Services plans to build a $650 million plant in Manhattan. Company plans to create 500 jobs in the new facility in the next 7 years. The plant will help develop vaccines to respond to global biological threats. The company also plans to work with Fort Riley soldiers transitioning out of the military. The proposal still requires local, county, and state approvals for incentive packages. Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation says a suspect waved a bow and arrow at law enforcement in a, quote, threatening manner in a Craig County officer-involved shooting. The OSBI says dispatchers were called to a chunk of concrete on the railroad tracks on 4400 Road about 7 a.m. Veneta police officers and Craig County deputies responded and found tracks in the grass from the railroad to a tractor on nearby property. Agents say the officers found Guy Walker going in and out of his house on the same property. They say when the investigators approached, he pulled out a bow and arrow. A deputy and an officer both fired at Walker. Walker died at the scene. No officers were injured. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt hopes to lure a company that could bring tens of thousands of jobs to the state. At a news conference on Monday, the governor said he's asking lawmakers to expand the state's tax incentive program to entice companies that bring high-quality jobs to the state. Stitt did not identify the specific company he's trying to lure, but indicated it's in the car manufacturing industry and that it would provide a lot of jobs.
We can land some of these major companies and these major manufacturing facilities. It will have a generational impact on the state of Oklahoma. Some of the studies and the research that we've looked at can show a company of this size can create up to 70,000 direct and indirect jobs.
Stitt says the state is looking at the opportunity to land one of the biggest factories in the nation. It's a staple for many cultures and is one of the most popular flavors in the world, garlic. My wife hates it. I love it. Today is National Garlic Day. This day is meant to celebrate the incredible taste of garlic, and it is, oh, it's so good. And also to create awareness of garlic as a natural medicine. Garlic is often touted as being an herbal remedy for colds and to help reduce blood pressure and cholesterol, and some even believe this stinking rose can ward off evil spirits and vampires. I can attest to you it does not work. So consider making a meal with garlic or having some garlic bread for dinner. Also sounds delicious. Or for any serious garlic lovers, check out Gilroy, California. It's the garlic capital of the world. The town has a festival, gifts, and crafts all centered around the theme of, you guessed it, garlic. And this one I'm not so sure about, but they even serve garlic ice cream. See, Sonic came out with these garlic parmesan little boneless wings or whatever you want to call them.
Oh, yes, I know.
They were so good. It drove my wife nuts. She hates garlic. Excuse me, I'm now dying. She can hear me. That's what's going on. She's choking me from home. And she doesn't like the smell of it. Now, she'll eat garlic bread. I guess she didn't hate it. She's just not a big fan.
They had a distinct odor to them.
Yeah, and so I'd order those, and we'd get it in the car, and then the whole car would smell like garlic. And, I mean, she's rolling down the window like we just hit a skunk or something.
May have been in a truck ride one time with a teenager from Columbia, Missouri to Monett, Missouri during the time where those were actually available. And I think she probably had about 24 of them. And the smell lasted longer than they were on the menu at Sonic.
Don't doubt it. I don't doubt it.
Caitlin Nicole, I love you, and I'm sorry they took away your garlic parmesan wings.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed because I go there every so often because I love ocean water. And I always check the menu. I'm like, have they brought it back even just as a limited time offer? No. I'm like, come on. You're
I don't know
killing
if
me.
they're coming back, man.
Killing me. They better. If they know what's good for them.
Hey, and to each their own. I know they were very, very popular.
Something you're bringing back. I do this to Nick Kelly all the time on the weekends, so now it's my turn to do it to you. Something you're bringing back, some warm temperatures.
We call that a segue. Future track going to get us out of the freezing mark here, probably about, we'll say 8, 9 a.m. Then we're going to push up into the 60s later on this afternoon and into the nighttime hours. Here comes the sporadic rain followed by thunderstorm activity for Wednesday. We do find ourselves in the low category on the severe thunderstorm risk map.
That is sporadic. I looked right down at that radar. That is quite sporadic.
Exactly.
That is extraordinarily sporadic.
It actually said, Michael, say sporadic here.
I think that's it. I'm going to add that now to every line.
Just read the prompter, man.
Just everything right there.
Just script it for me.
I will. I think that we need to take one of these days. I'm absolutely serious because you see all these videos on YouTube about Google Translate.
Yes.
Where like they'll take something and translate it through 3 or 4, 5, 6 languages and then back to English. We need to do that. We need to pick one news story that's not so serious.
Right.
Run it through Google Translate, load it into this prompter, and then read it. As Google Translate. But you have to take it seriously. It doesn't matter what it says. We've got to present it to you as seriously as possible.
It may not have been National Garlic Day any longer.
I
don't know what National Day
If I have an opportunity this morning, we might bring National Garlic Day back later after we've translated it about 6 or 7
I don't know what National Day would have been. It probably wouldn't have been garlic.
Oh, gosh. Well, technology. There's something else I got to share with you later that you're going to absolutely love, and I think people at home will love.
I'm on board.
It's going to be great.
I'm
Michael,
on board.
thank you so much for that, whatever that is. Appreciate that. We love that. Let's look at our morning top stories and weather all here in the first. It's now been 13 minutes. I'm sorry. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, Girard and Frontenac softball face-off. Who came out on top? Stick with us. We'll have the answer. Plus, one man becomes a good Samaritan in Tennessee. We'll have what he did, and the Biden administration sees its mask mandates struck down in court. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More of the Chris and Michael Show when we come back.
Big softball matchup in the 4 states last night. 2 undefeated teams, a doubleheader. It's 8-0 Frontenac hosting the Girard Trojans, who come in a perfect 7-0. First inning, Emmeline Senecott for the Girard Trojans. Base hit up the middle. Now we're going to end up with the bases loaded, and Bailey Troike. That's going to score Sarah Goebel. Senecott caught between bases. Raiders are able to get out of the inning. Bottom half, Abby Beeman for Frontenac. Drops one into left field. Heather Arnett comes in. We are now tied at 1. Next inning, Lexi Robinson doing yeoman's work out in the circle. And not only game 1, but game 2 as well. Girard hangs on, wins the first one 5-4. But neither team would make it out undefeated. In the nightcap, Frontenac earns the split. Raiders take game 2 8-1. Baseball team's just as competitive as the Raiders enter the day undefeated. Trojan with just one loss. Jeremy Rayo going to start things off for Frontenac. Base hit to left field brings in 2 runs for the Raiders. Going to follow that up with Wyatt Foley, who's going to find a gap right here. Drake Brooks scores the tying run. We are knotted at 2. Let's play bonus baseball. Extra innings, top 8. Trevor Amershat drives 1 to left. That's going to bring in 2 for the Trojan lead. And Gerard hands Frontenac its first loss of the season as the Trojans win it 6-3. Another red-hot team in Southeast Kansas, the Columbus Titans. Halfway through their regular season schedule, they're 11-0, have scored 128 runs this season, averaging about 12 per game. 7 of those runs have been home runs. Grace Major, she's got 3. Their numbers on defense just as impressive. Columbus has 4 shutouts. They've held their opponents to 3 runs or less in all but one of their contests. Head coach Amy Saporito talks about the well-roundedness of her group.
Really, I think just the girls buying in and knowing that they have to be able to lay down a bunt and they have to be able to get a good solid hit. I know that our pitchers have stepped up as leaders, and all year long, off season, preseason, they've been working to prepare to be in the circle, and all of our pitchers want to have the ball in the circle all the time.
Columbus back in action on Tuesday for a doubleheader against Pittsburgh. Riverton head football coach Johnny Mallett is retiring. Mallett has spent 50 years coaching football in the 4 states, including 41 years between Riverton, Galena, and Baxter Springs. Mallett was named the CNC Coach of the Year in 2004, 2005, and a finalist for Kansas 2A Coach of the Year in 2019 and 2021. This past season, he led the Rams to the program's most wins in 13 seasons as they finished 8-3, were district champs and state quarterfinalists. We wish Mr. Mallett the best of success in the next endeavor he decides to tackle in retirement. So to come on the KOAM Morning News, we take a deeper dive into the biotech company that is headed to Manhattan, Kansas, and a check on our 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns. Chilly start as we take a look down on 7th and Rangeline in Joplin. Temperatures right now at 35 degrees. Not much of a wind chill in effect, so that is one positive, but we've dipped now as low as 30 in Iola. Start to see a little rebound up to the north. Fort Scott and Nevada now well above the freezing mark at 36 and 37. Let's go with 34 in Miami. And able to put up some 40s there in southeast Kansas, Chanute, Neodesha, and in Parsons. That being said, we still do have freeze warnings for our counties in turquoise. And purple, including the turquoise, is a frost advisory. Those lasting until 9 o'clock this morning. Clean Skywatch storm tracker, so gorgeous skies outside. But of course, that also means we are off to a chilly mid-November start. Now, over our daily afternoon high, going to even be better than what we had yesterday, as we'll be up into the 60s. But you'll also notice, too, that comes with its fair share of precipitation. So once we kick in here, late afternoon, early evening hours, we begin with rain to the north central. Kick that from Tuesday into Wednesday. Wednesday, much more widespread. And then comes the Wednesday morning thunderstorms. Bouts of heavy rain, thunder, and lightning rolling through. High wind also going to factor in, and even the possibility of some hail. Now, Wednesday is the most widespread, but the rain lasts until Thursday. Keep on warming up, however, mid-70s by Thursday, 80s. We'll finish off the weekend in fine fashion, get us some sunshine, get up into the 80s on Friday. Pain at the pump continues. National average for a gallon of gas soaring to more than $4. But one Tennessee customer ended up getting his gas at a huge discount, filled up his entire tank for $5.64. Of course, this was all due to a mistake at the pump at a gas station in Chattanooga. Elise Zwick shows us how he did the right thing instead of driving off.
One of the pumps, I stopped and got premium for my wife's card. Wasn't even really looking at the price because didn't want to. And went to go hang it back up and realized I had pumped 12 gallons and it only charged me $5.
Hank DeHart says that was the moment he realized there was a mistake at the pump. He said he had to tell the owner right away so he didn't lose even more money in sales that day.
Once I showed him on my phone and then he printed the receipt, you can see the color just drain out of his face, and he was obviously pretty upset.
DeHart says he knows from being a small business owner himself, it's hard to make up for days when a simple mistake like this one is made. The owner told Local 3, 1 to 2 hours of this can cost him $2,000.
I don't know. I was just hoping that people would kind of recognize, this, this is a small business owner. I own a small business. I mean, every little thing impacts your bottom line, and yeah, you might have made a mistake, but like that's, to go 5 or 6 hours without knowing, that's huge.
After DeHart spoke to the Shell owner, he could tell he was devastated because it was a busy day at the pumps.
At 45 cents a gallon, I mean that barely covers the federal and state gas tax. So he was basically giving fuel away for free, and it took a little while for somebody to stop and tell him.
DeHart took to Facebook and posted his receipts and frustration of people taking advantage of the gas station. He says some people were really supportive and some said, quote, "Well, it's just big oil."
Yeah, the big oil, like they are fine, but this guy lives in this neighborhood and owns a business here in Chattanooga or East Ridge. So I mean, he's a local person. He's not a big corporation,
The owner thanked him for coming forward, and a woman in line told him it was sweet he helped out. He says he was just doing the right thing.
If you have your receipt, great. If you just have to look at your debit card or whatever, great. I guess people who paid cash probably just felt like they hit the lottery, but it was at this guy's expense.
DeHart hopes people that filled up their tanks that day come back and settle up those debts. Our question for you on the KOAM News Now Insta Poll: when was the last time you did a good deed? Gave you a couple options on there. You can connect to us several ways. KOAMnewsnow.com/vote or the KOAM Facebook page. Be back with,
Zach Galifianakis.
Yes, I honestly thought when that interview started that Between Two Ferns may break out at the gas station. Be back with Health Watch next.
Topping Health Watch this morning, mask mandates are facing fiery opposition across the country. The Biden administration's nationwide mask mandate for airplanes and other forms of public transportation is currently not in effect after it was struck down by a federal judge in Florida, and a lawsuit has been filed in an effort to overturn Philadelphia's renewed indoor mask mandate. Jen Sullivan has the latest.
A ruling on the Biden administration's nationwide mask mandate on planes and public transportation, handed down by a U.S. district judge in Florida, says the mandate was unlawful, that the CDC exceeded its statutory authority and its implementation violated administrative law.
This is obviously a disappointing decision. The CDC continues recommending wearing a mask in public transit.
Right now, the ruling has the effect of invalidating the regulation. The Justice Department can request an emergency order to keep mask rules in place while an appeal is underway. Just last week, the CDC extended its mask mandate on public transportation through May 3rd.
I certainly hope this is the last extension, and we're all hoping come May 3rd that the mandate expires and the government now puts it on individuals to make their own decisions about how they care and protect themselves from any kind of health risk rather than the government mandating it.
This, as a group of business owners and residents have now filed a joint lawsuit against the city of Philadelphia after becoming the first major U.S. city to reinstate its indoor mask mandates.
I want to see the state Commonwealth Court strike down this mandate as violative of Pennsylvania law.
I'm Jen Sullivan reporting.
Multiple U.S. airlines have announced that masks are now optional on their aircraft, and Amtrak no longer require face masks for passengers and employees following the court ruling striking down the federal transportation mask mandate. That's a look at today's top health stories. You're watching, we call it the KOAM Morning News, but it's really the Chris and Michael Show. We'll have more of it when we come back. Coming up, a suspect from Cherokee County, Kansas, considered armed and dangerous.
Trying to get out of the way of freeze warnings and frost advisories, and then we get ready for thunderstorms. More of the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, Governor Kevin Stitt wants to attract a company that could bring tens of thousands of jobs into Oklahoma.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning. Welcome to the KOAM Morning News, aka the Chris and Michael Show. It is 5:34 now a.m. I'm not Tanya Bach.
No.
I'm Chris Warner, and I'm very sorry about that.
No.
Michael Hayslip is here. Every so often, see, here's the deal. Like, I'm sure we have our new boss, started a couple of weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
She's probably watching. It's the first time I've done the morning show since she
not.
started. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I think she's watching right now, and she's like, oh, hey, Chris is doing the morning show. And then she gets 5 minutes in and goes, he's never doing that again.
Britt, go back to sleep.
Yeah, now is the time to turn off your TV. Britt. So if you're watching, I would cease and desist immediately because We don't. You never know what's going to happen when you and I are together.
You know what people should do when we hit a commercial break. Definitely not while we're talking. But
no, yeah.
Find a south window and go check out the moon. It's absolutely gorgeous.
From my location, so I need to leave now and go find a south.
No, I said during a commercial break, not while we're talking.
Yeah, but it's important.
Oh, it's right here.
I can't get much closer. I mean, I guess I could.
Yeah.
I think I'll just hang out over here. So it's a little bit chilly.
Yeah.
It was hard to balance temperature in the car again because it's just one of those things. You can never find that happy medium in the car.
I just had the heat blasting, man. Because we're sitting
that.
right now anywhere from low 30s, 30 in Iola, below the freezing mark in Iola, Sedan right at 32. We are seeing some 37s in Monette and Cassville. Let's roll 40 in Parsons and Neodesha. That's been our several places there throughout southeast Kansas that are actually in the 40s. But even with that being said, we're going to hold on to the frost advisories in the purple and the turquoise indicating freeze warnings and do so all the way until 9 a.m. Now, of course, the reason for that is we lost our cloud cover. It is clear as can be. That's why you got a great shot of that nearly full moon. Remember, we're on the opposite side of it. It was officially full on Saturday, but still gorgeous and lighting up the 4-state morning right now. Skywatch Storm Tracker, we're starting to see that jet stream take some of that cold Canadian air and push it off to the east. But that high pressure system that brings us blue sky this morning, going to replace by some low pressure and Gulf moisture. We'll start with scattered rain for the afternoon and evening hours, work up into the low 60s. More importantly, once the rain starts, it doesn't want to stop. It's going to carry us all the way into Wednesday morning. That's going to bring some heavy rain right there all the way into Wednesday night. So by the time we're done, looking at probably inch and a half of rain. Shouldn't have any flooding concerns. Chris, greatest threat is going to be not only the bouts of the heavy rain if you're traveling, but also too high winds, and we actually can't discount possibility of some hail as this moves in from the southwest, specifically for northeast Oklahoma and southeast Kansas.
Stop.
Collaborate and listen.
What? I was doing MC Hammer.
Oh.
Stop. Shower time.
See,
I was singing Wake Me Up Before You Go right as the show started in the second.
And see, I went with Ice Ice Baby when you went with Stop.
But there's no ice, baby.
Thank goodness.
It's rain, son.
Blame it on the rain.
You know, there was this one time, and I'm not kidding you, I set fire to the rain. And I watched it pour as it hit
Kids,
my
don't
face.
try this at home.
Don't ever. Hey, no, that's bad, because Adele tells them to do it. She's explaining it. I mean, she doesn't, I guess, give instructions, but she's just so proud of the fact that she set fire to the rain. And by the way, if you can set fire to the rain, it's probably time to move, because rain should not be flammable. It's like I can't think of who sings it. I think it's The Weeknd who sings the "I Can't Feel My Face When I'm With You."
Well,
that is
okay,
a
we try to keep this family
condition.
friendly and the veiled references, perhaps.
It's a song.
We like to weave those in surreptitiously.
I guess then I don't understand what that means, because I perceive that as, you have a serious medical condition that needs immediate attention.
Well, you're probably caused by something as well.
Okay. All right. Hey, thanks, Michael. We've got some news to go over with you today. State investigators in Kansas have identified a woman killed in an exchange of gunfire. Kansas Bureau of Investigation says 32-year-old Andrea Barrow of Arkansas City, Kansas, was killed Friday in Cowley County after she pulled out a handgun as deputies tried to remove her from a vehicle. Investigators said 2 of the deputies are recovering at home. At last report, a 3rd remained hospitalized in good condition. Authorities say deputies were responding to a call about a suspicious vehicle when Barrow pulled out the gun and, quote, gunfire was exchanged. Cherokee County Sheriff's Office says the suspect in a Baxter Springs shooting should be considered armed and dangerous. An arrest warrant was issued Monday afternoon for 38-year-old Sean Houston. He's wanted on allegations of attempted second-degree murder. Shortly after midnight on Monday, deputies were dispatched to investigate a shooting west of Baxter Springs. According to the Sheriff's Office, emergency medical personnel transported a man to a Joplin area hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. In their investigation, detectives identified Houston as a suspect. Anyone with information about his location should contact the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office. Kansas is also getting new jobs, in this case, courtesy of a big new biotech project coming to Manhattan, Kansas. The facility should also help improve our nation's ability to respond to future pandemics. Reporter Danielle Martin explains.
He's all ours. 5 years from now, Manhattan will not be the same.
Governor Laura Kelly announced a $650 million biotech project in Manhattan on Monday.
In fact, today's announcement is the largest capital investment project in our state since the start of my administration in 2019. The unique mix of assets here provide the perfect ecosystem for companies like Scorpion to thrive.
The press conference featured federal, state, local, and Kansas State University officials. The new project involves a 500,000 square foot Manhattan facility. Scorpion Biological Services, a subsidiary of Heat Biologics Incorporated.
Put Manhattan right at the heart of our country's response to tomorrow's pandemics and global threats. In addition, the skill and the strength of the Kansas workforce will be a critical part of your success. And Scorpion's important mission will call Kansas's bright minds and hard workers to join the effort.
And that is really provide and build commercial scale facility that's built around this mindset of developing drugs quickly, efficiently, rapidly for the people who really need them.
The facility will support the development of vaccines to address potential threats to public health.
The pandemic really opened our eyes to how difficult it is and the lack of capacity to manufacture new drugs in a time of need. So we really decided to go in there and do something about it.
The project promises to bring 500 new, high-paying jobs to the Little Apple.
It feels really good. That is our goal, is growth. And so creating jobs, attracting talent, retaining talent. Obviously Fort Riley and Kansas State University will play a major role in our talent pipeline for this project and others like it. And so it's really exciting, and I think we've got great partners that help support these types of projects.
Senator Jerry Moran says this project will help keep citizens safe.
Is the ability for us to make certain that we develop the necessary tools for our citizens' health and well-being, and the more we can distance ourselves from China and China-made products, the safer we will be.
Senator Jerry Moran says this investment is not related to the Apex incentive package lawmakers approved earlier this year that was proposed to attract a business with $2.5 billion of new revenue to the state. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt hopes to lure a company that could bring tens of thousands of jobs to the state. At a news conference on Monday, the governor said he's asking lawmakers to expand the state's tax incentive program to entice companies that bring high-quality jobs to the state. Stitt did not identify the specific company he's trying to lure, but indicated it's in the car manufacturing industry and that it would provide a lot of jobs.
So we have an opportunity to land one of the largest factories in the entire country. Just a humongous factory with billions and billions of dollars worth of investment, thousands and thousands of jobs. And so I'm asking for the legislature to do some special, what we call mega legislation for not only this new company, but also future ones that are going to look to Oklahoma to expand.
Stitt says the company could create up to 70,000 direct and indirect jobs. Michael Hayslip now. Check that forecast.
Cold right now with temperatures ranging in between 30 and 40 degrees. That's why we've got freeze warnings and frost advisories. Now, while we make it up into the 60s, remember, late this afternoon, early evening, scattered rain turns into thunderstorms overnight into Wednesday.
This morning, now it's me. Sorry, we were talking about the prompter earlier. It said you, now it says me. This morning, we're discussing good deeds as gas prices continue to soar over $4 a gallon. One man should have felt it was his lucky day when a mistake let him fill up his tank for $5.64. However, instead of just ignoring it, he went back to the gas station and let them know about this mistake. He didn't want to let the owner lose out on the money, more money than what he already had. Now, DeHart, who owns a business himself, felt it was the right thing to do because it's hard to make up for days when there's a simple mistake, such as the one he caught. This brings us to our something to talk about. When was the last time you did a good deed?
Chris, our respondents did pretty recently, 40% saying yesterday and 40% saying this week. And once again, you know what they say about good deeds.
See, here's the deal. That goes back to the weekend, all right? We're not going down that route.
You can take part each and every morning. KOAM, newsnow.com/vote. Also connect to us via our Facebook page at KOAM.
Okay, as promised, we have one more special story to bring you. So I told you I wanted to give a news story script.
Google Translate.
Some Google Translate. So this is about garlic, and this is what Google managed to come up with for us. Favorite from many food recipes and one of the most popular flavors in the world,
Agreed.
the dawn of today's people. Today, we celebrate luck's incredible happiness.
Wait, it sounds like people are the favorite food.
It might be.
Okay.
You have to find out.
Okay.
And we also raise awareness as a natural medical trait. Garlic is often offered as an herbal remedy for the common cold and helps maintain blood and lower cholesterol.
Okay.
Someone believes that this last rose can be carefully made of silk and vampires.
So the garlic's actually made of vampires.
It is. That's why it doesn't work. So make dinner with garlic or bread garlic, or for all serious love friends, Gilroy, California, discover garlic in the world.
Yes.
City festivals, gifts, work subject garlic. They even offer Cesnovin's ice cream, Omilan from many recipes for cost, one of the most popular vkusovi in the world. So there were some words that did not translate back to English.
Work subjects makes it sound like Gilroy has indentured servitude, that it makes its population churn out garlic.
Possibility. This was just... so that's why, be careful with Google Translate. That's all we can say. We're going to be right back, I think. Topping World Watch, Israeli fighter jets strike the southern Gaza Strip in a series of attacks aimed at Hamas targets. Israeli military says it was targeting a Hamas weapons manufacturing site. No injuries have been reported. The attack comes after Palestinian militants fired a rocket into southern Gaza, the first attack in months. Violence is the latest escalation after clashes at a sensitive Jerusalem holy site, a series of deadly attacks inside Israel, and military raids in the occupied West Bank. So our big top world headlines. We're going to be right back with the news you need to know before you head out the door. Here's a check of today's top headlines, news you need to know before you head out the door. Cherokee County Sheriff's Office says the suspect in a Baxter Springs shooting should be considered armed and dangerous. An arrest warrant was issued Monday afternoon for 38-year-old Sean Houston. He is wanted on allegations of attempted second-degree murder. Shortly after midnight on Monday, deputies were dispatched to investigate a shooting west of Baxter Springs. According to the Sheriff's Office, emergency medical personnel transported a man to a Joplin area hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. In their investigation, detectives identified Houston as a suspect. Anyone with information on his location should contact the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office. An afternoon fire destroyed a home and more in Columbus. It happened at Northwest Orchard Land and 6th Street. In addition to the house, 2 storage trailers were destroyed. Columbus firefighters say no injuries were reported. State investigators in Kansas have identified a woman killed in an exchange of gunfire. Kansas Bureau of Investigation says 32-year-old Andrea Barrow of Arkansas City was killed Friday in Cowley County after she pulled out a handgun as deputies tried to remove her from a vehicle. Investigators said 2 of the deputies are recovering at home. At last report, a 3rd remained hospitalized in good condition. Authorities say deputies were responding to a call about a suspicious vehicle when Barrow pulled out a gun and, quote, gunfire was exchanged. Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation says a suspect waved a bow and arrow at law enforcement in, quote, threatening manner in a Craig County officer-involved shooting. The OSBI says dispatchers were called about a chunk of concrete on the railroad tracks on 4400 Road around 7 a.m. Veneta police officers and Craig County deputies responded and found tracks in the grass from the railroad to a tractor on nearby property. Agents say the officers found Guy Walker going in and out of his house on the same property. They say when investigators approached, he pulled out a bow and arrow, and the deputy and an officer both fired at Walker. Walker died at the scene. No officers were injured. And that's checking today's top headlines, news you need to know before you head out the door.
Cold one. We got temperatures down around the freezing mark in some areas. We will get up into the 60s later on today. We'll break down our thunderstorm activity headed for tonight into Wednesday coming up here in just a bit.
An autistic teenager who disappeared from his family's California home nearly 3 years ago has been found alive in Utah. Kate Smith has more from New York.
You look like you're shivering.
Police body cam footage shows deputies in Utah interacting with 19-year-old Connor Jack Oswald, nearly 3 years after the teen disappeared from his California home, hundreds of miles away.
Honestly, I'm still dumbstruck by the whole situation.
The sheriff's department found him sleeping outside a store in an area known for skiing.
You want to come sit in his car and warm up for a minute?
After agreeing to warm up in the patrol car, the teen, who has autism, let them take a fingerprint. which eventually led to his identification.
After about 16 pages of scouring through names and photographs and trying to find something that might match up, came up with the name Connor Jack Oswalt.
His stepfather drove 4 hours to Utah to confirm the good news.
Is it him?
A little bit older, but yeah.
My sweetheart's alive. We're just grateful that he is safe, he's alive, and we have our son back. That's the most important thing ever for us.
Where Oswalt has been for all this time remains under investigation. Kate Smith, CBS News.
Now, Oswalt's family never stopped searching for him. They handed out flyers, contacted missing persons organizations, and even moved back to the town where he was born, hoping that he would eventually make it back there.
Cold morning, and as we gradually do begin to warm up, increased instability. Scattered rain showers begin late this afternoon into the evening hours, followed by thunderstorm activity all through Wednesday. Incrementally warming up. Back with more KOAM Morning News after this.
Coming up, a suspect from Cherokee County, Kansas is considered armed and dangerous.
We're going to start with frigid temps, and then we're going to break out the rain for tonight into Wednesday, the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, Governor Kevin Stitt wants to attract a company that could bring tens of thousands of jobs into Oklahoma.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning. Welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6 a.m. right now. How about that? Right on the dot.
How about
if you're just joining us, this is the Chris and Michael Show. So my little sister Laura messaged me on Facebook explaining what the song
Without divulging personal information, what is the age gap between you and little sis?
3 years.
3 years, okay.
So she explained to me what the song was about. So I'm only 3 years older than her.
For those of you
I guess maybe it's really only 2.5. But either way, I'm just that out of touch with reality.
For those of you just joining us earlier this morning, Chris and I were talking about the cold temps, and we hit on artists like Vanilla Ice. We hit MC Hammer. We hit Wham. And we hit The Weeknd.
Yes, we did.
The song in question, I Can't Feel My Face When I'm With You. And Chris.
I thought it was related to a medical condition.
And Chris's sister, she perhaps sided with me.
Yeah, she did. She clued me in on what it's all about.
Once again, we try to keep those veiled references to a minimum.
But that's why I don't listen to that song. I'm just...
Don't paint yourself as a moralist over there.
I am out of touch and out of time.
Well, I was going to say, if you want to go Hall & Oates, I can go down that road with you as well.
We're really like a radio station more than anything in the morning.
Morning
like
show.
I said, and everybody at home, remember, you've only got me for today. Tanya's back tomorrow. You'll have a much more simplistic, more straightforward morning show. Something that's a little more easy.
I don't know. Yesterday we talked about is time a man-made construct.
Is it?
I argued it was.
I mean, yeah. On all honesty, I got to go with you. It definitely is. Because the Earth doesn't rotate. Like, our days are not like a perfect 24-hour period.
Well, I thought you'd appreciate that I argued that it was a man-made construct just so I could get in Carole King and It's Too Late.
It's too late now. It's
Tapestry,
too late.
one of the greatest selling albums of all time.
Well,
our temperatures right now ranging anywhere from about 31 to 41. Now, even though we've got pretty much consistent communities above the 32-degree mark, we still are going to roll frost advisories for seemingly 75% of the 4 states that are in the purple. The turquoise indicates the freeze warning, and it's expansive geographically. Everybody in turquoise, they're in a freeze warning. And as you jump across Indiana, it continues all the way through the Ohio River Valley as well. Very cold right now in the Midwest, at least for the middle of April. Skywatch Storm Tracker, we are clear for the time being. That is going to change and change quickly because as the jet stream takes that cold air, moves it east toward the Mississippi River, replaced with Gulf moisture and instability to the tune of some afternoon thunderstorm activity that is going to carry us all the way into, almost Thursday. We'll really pick up in earnest here tonight. And once we get into Wednesday morning, not only are we going to see some bouts of some heavy rain, but also to high winds and even the possibility of some hail involved with that, where we see it turning into the red, orange, and the yellow. As this thing moves through, at least our temperatures do increase to the tune of high 60s, if not 70s on Wednesday, easy 70s on Thursday. And Chris, by the time it works its way out, how about 80s and sunshine on Friday?
I can live with that. I'll take it.
Friday not looking too bad at all. And really, great start to our Saturday as well. That rain really won't kick in until the evening, nighttime hours on Saturday and take us into Sunday. So Friday through most of Saturday looking absolutely great.
I am looking forwd to the warmer temperatures.
We'll
I
be
told
due for
Nick
some
over the
by
weekend, I said, I'll trade the rain for some warmer temperatures.
I'm with you
that's
on
the
that.
trade-off. I'll take it.
And if we can get the wind to just take a break.
It's springtime in the 4 states. If there's a sunny, warm day, there's going to be a 90-mile-an-hour cross breeze.
I know.
Like, that's just a fact around here. That's just how it works every time. Michael, thank you so much. During 4-state news, an afternoon fire destroys a home and more in Columbus. It happened at Northwest Orchardland and 6th Street. In addition to the house, 2 storage trailers were destroyed. Columbus firefighters say no injuries were reported. Cherokee County Sheriff's Office says the suspect in a Baxter Springs shooting should be considered armed and dangerous. An arrest warrant was issued Monday afternoon for 38-year-old Sean Houston. He's wanted on allegations of attempted second-degree murder. Shortly after midnight on Monday, deputies were dispatched to investigate a shooting west of Baxter Springs. According to the Sheriff's Office, emergency medical personnel transported a man to a Joplin area hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. In their investigation, detectives identified Houston as a suspect. Anyone with information about his location should contact the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office. State investigators in Kansas identify a woman killed in an exchange of gunfire. Kansas Bureau of Investigation says 32-year-old Andrea Barrow of Arkansas City was killed Friday in Cowley County after she pulled out a handgun as deputies tried to remove her from a vehicle. Investigators said 2 of the deputies are recovering at home. At last report, a 3rd remained hospitalized in good condition. Authorities say the deputies were responding to a call about a suspicious vehicle when Barrow pulled out the gun and, quote, gunfire was exchanged. Inflation has driven up a number of items, and construction supplies are no exception. National Home Builders Association says building material costs have risen just over 20% year over year and are up 31% since January of 2020. Officials at Joplin schools say they closely monitor those costs for their building projects like the new Dover Hill Elementary.
We want to seek to keep the district informed, keep the patrons informed of what's going on. We've had to take some small change orders and things to the school board that we've made available to the public, but it's important that we take the best care of the money available for this project as we can.
Coming up in our next half hour, we'll hear more about how inflation impacts the district. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt hopes to lure a company that could bring tens of thousands of jobs to the state. At a news conference on Monday, the governor said he's asking lawmakers to expand the state's tax incentive program to entice companies that bring high-quality jobs to the state. Stitt did not identify the specific company he's trying to lure, but indicated it's in the car manufacturing industry and that it would provide a lot of jobs.
We can land some of these major companies and these major manufacturing facilities. It will have a generational impact on the state of Oklahoma. Some of the studies and the research that we've looked at can show a company of this size can create up to 70,000 direct and indirect jobs.
Stitt says the state is looking at the opportunity to land one of the biggest factories in the nation. Quapaw Emergency Management Team hosted a meet and greet along with their new K-9 team. The management team showcased the training that their K-9 unit goes through, such as trailing and air scent tracking. This event was open to all missing and murdered indigenous relatives groups in the Kansas and Oklahoma. The unit aims to be a resource to those groups.
A dog is a search multiplier, plain and simple, whether it's search and recovery or search and rescue. Their nose is an invaluable tool. A well-trained dog and handler team are going to give you an added benefit to it. We can cover a lot more area.
The city of Boston held its world-famous marathon on this date back in 1897. It was the brainchild of Boston Athletic Association member and inaugural U.S. Olympic team manager John Graham, who was inspired by the marathon at the first modern Olympic Games in Athens in 1896. He also won the first Boston Marathon with a time of 2 hours, 55 minutes, and 10 seconds. The marathon's distance was changed in 1908 in accordance with Olympic standards to its current length of 26 miles, 385 yards. Women were not allowed to enter the Boston race officially until 1972, though. Some found their way into the race, though, over the years before that. In 1975, the Boston Marathon became the first major marathon to include a wheelchair division competition. Michael is waving his arms in the air. He has something to share.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because we talked about Joan Benoit winning the Boston Marathon yesterday, and we talked about it being 50 years since women were allowed to run the Boston Marathon. But two names that we forgot to bring up that really are iconic names in sports history, Catherine Switzer and Bobby Gibb. Bobby Gibb is best remembered for disguising herself. She wore Bermuda shorts and a hat and hid in the bushes at the starting line in the mid-1960s. Once, like, the gun hit and everybody took off, she came out of the bushes. So, and then finished, and then was welcomed at the finish line by the governor of Massachusetts. A couple years later, a woman by the name of Catherine Switzer, she registered her name, but simply put down her initials. Didn't ask for sex on the form. So she put down her initials, she showed up. She was forcibly removed from the race by the race director. Shrugged him off, like kept running, with the help of several other male runners who subdued the race director. And then Catherine Switzer went to go finish the race. Wow. So yeah, we tell you, like 1972, but there were actually these, and I bring up Bobby Gibb and Catherine Switzer, and there may be more. I bring up those two women in particular because of the bravery and the stories that they have.
Yeah.
And the lengths that they went to. That's crazy,
to be able
Chris.
to run.
They had a
They
height.
had to do
We're talking
that.
about the mid-60s. They had to hide in a bush to take part in the Boston Marathon.
60s and 70s were certainly a different time.
It's crazy.
All around in this country.
But no, I appreciate you bringing that up, and Ron, I appreciate you writing that in the script because I did not get to that part yesterday, and I really wanted to talk about that part because I think their stories are just absolutely amazing.
They are, and the thing is, like you said, it's kind of sad, kind of crazy that there are those stories.
Yeah.
But we won't be hearing any of those stories anytime soon,
I hope
thankfully.
not.
I certainly hope not. Michael, thank you. Well, hey, you've got to tell us about something.
Oh, let's go low 60s today. Let's go afternoon scattered rain. Let's go thunderstorms late tonight into Wednesday. Even though we warm up, Wednesday's going to be a wet one. We'll have widespread thunderstorm activity.
Michael, now we thank you. That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather here on the KOAM Morning News. Coming up, the Boy Scouts motto is do a good turn daily. For these scouts, that means helping to regrow Florida's coral reefs. Plus, Oklahoma signs into law one of the nation's toughest abortion laws, and some corporations say that's bad for business. And springtime means it's also tick season. We've got some ways to protect yourself and your pets from these eight-legged pests. You're watching KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning and more Chris and Michael in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping Nation Watch this morning, Tuesday, March 27 years since the Oklahoma City bombing. The blast killed 168 people, including 19 children, and injured several hundred more. It happened on April 19, 1995 at the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in downtown Oklahoma City. The two men convicted of carrying out the attack were former U.S. Army soldiers associated with an extreme militant movement that rejects the legitimacy of the federal government and law enforcement. One was executed by lethal injection in 2001. The other is serving life in prison without parole. A wave of new restrictive abortion laws has been enacted in Republican-controlled states this year. It comes ahead of a highly anticipated Supreme Court ruling on this summer on Mississippi's law, which bans most abortions after 15 weeks. It could overturn decades of precedent that kept abortion legal. In Oklahoma, where a near-total abortion ban was enacted this month, some major corporations are addressing the law and say it's bad for business. Bree Clark reports.
We want Oklahoma to be the most pro-life state in the country.
It's a signature that reproductive advocates like Rhea Ventures say could cost Oklahoma billions.
There was a study done by the Institute for Women's Policy Research, a think tank in Washington, that found that abortion restrictions in Oklahoma are costing the state as much as $1.7 billion a year in lost revenue to the state. That's mind-boggling.
And with more Oklahoma-based remote workers from companies headquartered in other states, major employers like Apple, Citibank, and Yelp are responding. Just last week, Yelp announced it would cover the travel expenses of employees who must travel out of state for abortions, saying in a statement, "We've long been a strong advocate for equality in the workplace and believe that gender equality cannot be achieved if women's health care rights are restricted." And experts expect more companies to follow suit.
You'll see a lot of companies that are going to enact that policy but may not be quite as public about it.
Advocates say this could also impact companies already struggling to fill jobs as many women have left the workforce.
Companies are really hurting for women right now, especially in the wake of the so-called Great Resignation. Well, that's why it's really important that companies speak to lawmakers and to emphasize to them that restrictive abortion policies really take a toll on the overall talent pool and lead to an unhealthy situation for everybody in the state, that it's in everybody's best interest to have a population where people can do family planning, whatever that means for them.
Now, certain corporations also say recent abortion restrictions run afoul of their diversity, equity, and inclusion policies because the laws disproportionately affect minorities. Donald Trump Jr.'s fiancée, Kimberly Guilfoyle, met with the January 6th Select Committee in person on Monday. Guilfoyle worked on Donald Trump's presidential campaign, and she is a key witness to the events leading up to January 6th. Guilfoyle was with the former president that morning, and she was backstage with him and other family members during the Stop the Steal rally that day. Guilfoyle was also one of the guest speakers at the rally. On February 25th, Guilfoyle showed up voluntarily for a deposition with investigators, but she ended it abruptly when House members sat in on the interview, which is allowed in congressional inquiries. Guilfoyle said she had only agreed to talk to the committee counsel. That's a look at our top national stories. We're back right after this.
Boy Scouts, of course, known for camping, hiking, and earning merit badges, but now also helping to do something remarkable: regrowing Florida's coral reefs. Coral extremely vulnerable to climate change, but as Bradley Blackburn shows us, teenage Boy Scouts now helping to fight for the future.
On an island in the Florida Keys, these tanks hold a new generation of corals just starting to grow.
So we're just transferring them so that we can clean their tank.
And these are some of the young scouts who are helping care for them.
Right now I'm checking the salinity of the water.
At the Boy Scouts of America's Sea Base, young men and women have been learning to scuba dive for decades, where they've seen up close how the colors and creatures in Florida's coral reefs are under serious threat.
It is dying, to be quite frank. And that's due to a number of factors, changes in water temp, quality, human interaction.
General Manager Mike Johnson thought scouts could be part of the solution. Using a technique called fragmentation, they cut corals into tiny pieces that regrow 50 times faster than they would in nature. The scouts then plant them underwater to rebuild the reef. This is what they can look like after 5 years.
So do you think there might be a coral restoration merit badge on the horizon?
I hope so.
Even without a badge, Scout Warren Vrone knows he's making a difference.
When I remember my biggest accomplishment in scouting, it would probably be the Sea Base program.
Since launching in 2018, the Sea Base Nursery has grown 10,000 corals and is part of a 2-decade project to restore millions of square feet of reef. 15-year-old Ryan Emmons says they're helping the sea and future scouts.
It's going to make an everlasting change and an everlasting benefit for future generations.
A scout service project for Mother Nature, building a brighter future under the sea. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News.
Federal government estimates coral reefs provide almost $2 billion, with a B, $2 billion in flood protection benefits in the United States each year. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning, frost, freeze advisories in the area, maybe some snow across the country. Spring may seem a little delayed, but spring problems are not waiting for a warm-up. Tick season has started, and those little pests could have a big impact on your health and your pet's health, too. David Schumann looks at how best to keep ticks at bay.
Deer,
This is Winston. Dear.
Parks and wooded areas are places Monica Jobert is extra careful now with her 2.5-year-old rescue pup.
He had Lyme disease last year. Well, we weren't very responsible with our tick prevention. We noticed that he was pretty lethargic, especially for a border collie.
Winston's antibiotics worked, but the damage to his kidneys may shorten his life.
It really is never too early to talk about ticks.
Dr. Stuart Dalton, a veterinarian at White Bear Animal Hospital, says they see dogs test positive for Lyme disease every week.
It affects their joints and it causes them to be painful. That can cause permanent damage if it's let to go too long.
Should come as no surprise that prevention is key.
Trying to avoid heavy tick areas, especially in the spring and fall when they're most prevalent. Checking your dog thoroughly at the end of the day. And then beyond that, we test dogs regularly.
Tick checks are an important tool for us humans, too. Experts with the Minnesota Department of Health say ticks like to hide, usually on our lower bodies, and it's okay to take them off with tweezers or even your fingers.
We always want people to get out and enjoy, the beautiful weather and do all the things they love to do, but just know that especially, as we get into the month of May and into June, that's kind of our prime risk season for ticks in Minnesota.
Now, flu symptoms and fever can be signs of Lyme disease. It might also cause a red rash in the shape of a bullseye. That's a look at today's top health stories, or one of them. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We're going to be right back. Coming up, Cherokee County Sheriff's Office issues an arrest warrant for a suspect they consider armed and dangerous.
Still in the midst of a cold one on this Tuesday morning, as we've got freeze warnings and frost advisories, followed by thunderstorm activity. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, Governor Kevin Stitt hopes to attract a car manufacturer to the state of Oklahoma.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning. Welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6:29. I'm Chris Warner. We're going over to Michael Hayslip here. We've got, as you said a minute ago, well, a few seconds ago, we got some frost advisories, got some freeze warnings. It's a little bit on the chilly side. Doesn't look that way, though. It looks
Great thing
nice
about live TV, when you got a sky camera at your disposal.
Look at that sun. I stepped outside earlier, and the sunrise starting to come up.
Look at that.
Absolutely beautiful.
Clear as can be out there. Now, it's cold out there, but it is clear as can be. We are 10 minutes away officially from sunrise over Joplin Regional Airport. We sit at 36 right now, starting to pick up a little bit of a difference there between the temperature and the wind chill, only feeling like 31. Our temperatures are below freezing in Iola and Sedan. We've been consistently mid-30s throughout southwest Missouri, with 36 in Carthage, 37 in Monette. We're now watching northeast Oklahoma take the drop. Miami and Grove down right at the magical 32-degree line. That's why we've got freeze warnings for our counties in turquoise, frost advisories for not only the turquoise, but also the purple as well. And now eventually we'll be able to get rid of these let them expire about 8, 9 a.m. And all the precipitation staying down there through far western Oklahoma, that's not going to play a role for us. We're going to stay on the dry side for most of our morning and have a nice little warm up that we're going to need coming off of what was a chilly start yesterday, and then with all the warnings and advisories that we have today. But eventually, even with the increased cloud cover, we'll roll around 62, 63 degrees. Now, as we get into the afternoon and evening hours, here comes the rain, starting the scattered variety up to the north central portion. Widespread as we get into Wednesday morning. And after that come the thunderstorms. That's going to be about some heavy rain rolls through there when you see that. The orange and the yellow and the red kicking in, thunder, lightning, and even the possibility, Chris, of some hail. Not a high probability, but also too, you're going to want to tune into us tomorrow morning because it get a little bit interesting for that Wednesday morning commute.
Well, and that's the thing is, even though it's been a little bit chilly, we are in the midst of storm season now. So
yes, we are.
We don't need a lot to get
severe
those
weather
going.
season is upon us. We really, all things considered, and certainly for those of you that have had storm damage, you remember that we've had high winds knock down buildings, we've had lightning hit houses. If you look especially down to Arkansas into the deeper south portion of the United States, so far so good for us.
Yeah, but that's one of those things that's going to slowly migrate our way.
Right.
And I know what Doug's been talking about. We definitely have a storm season we want to watch.
Yeah. No, we've only just begun.
And that's the other thing, though, is if you don't have the Skywatch weather app, now's the time to get it.
Throw it on your phone. It's free, downloadable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's free. favorite app store. You can search it, Skywatch Weather app. It is very
Won't
convenient.
cost you a dime.
And you get this guy on your phone. You get Nick Kelly. You get Doug Hetty on your phone. In addition, you get severe weather alerts. I mean, I can't talk it up enough as we get into severe weather season, simply because having early warning like that is extraordinarily important.
Weather radios too.
That too. So, I mean,
thank you,
one
Tim.
way or the other. Yeah, thank you guys in the back. Check it out. There's a QR code there. If you've got your phone handy, you can scan that, and that'll take you right to the download. It's an extraordinarily important resource to have, because outdoor warning sirens, they're called that. We call them tornado sirens down here, but in reality, they're outdoor warning sirens. So at 3 a.m., you may not hear them go off, but you'll hear your phone go off.
Yeah, when people say, oh, did the sirens go off? Well, you very well could be in your living room with the TV on or something of that nature, and, you know.
Yeah, they're meant to warn people outdoors, not indoors. So make sure you've got some way to stay ahead of the storms this season. Michael, thank you. Cherokee County Sheriff's Office says the suspect in a Baxter Springs shooting could be could be considered armed and dangerous. Now, an arrest warrant was issued Monday afternoon for 38-year-old Sean Houston. He's wanted on allegations of attempted second-degree murder. Shortly after midnight on Monday, deputies were dispatched to investigate a shooting west of Baxter Springs. According to the Sheriff's Office, emergency medical personnel transported a man to a Joplin area hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. In their investigation, detectives identified Houston as a suspect. Anyone with information about his location should contact the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office. Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation says a suspect waved a bow and arrow at law enforcement in a, quote, threatening manner in a Craig County officer-involved shooting. The OSBI says dispatchers were called about a chunk of concrete on the railroad tracks on 4400 Road around 7 a.m. The Veneta police officers and Craig County deputies responded and found tracks in the grass from the railroad to a tractor on nearby property. Agents say the officers found Guy Walker going in and out of his house on the same property. Say when the investigators approached, he pulled out the bow and arrow. A deputy and an officer both fired at Walker. Walker died at the scene. No officers were injured. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt hopes to lure a company that could bring tens of thousands of jobs to the state. At a news conference on Monday, the governor said he's asking lawmakers to expand the state's tax incentive program to entice companies that bring high-quality jobs to the state. Stitt did not identify the specific company he's trying to lure, but indicated it is in the car manufacturing industry and that it would provide a lot of jobs.
So we have an opportunity to land one of the largest factories in the entire country. Just a humongous factory with billions and billions of dollars worth of investment, thousands and thousands of jobs. And so I'm asking for the legislature to do some special, what we call mega legislation for not only this new company, but also future ones that are going to look to Oklahoma to expand.
Stitt says the company could create up to 70,000 direct and indirect jobs. Inflation is impacting prices on everyday items that we all need, and construction materials are no different. We spoke with the Joplin School District to find out how they're managing the costs on some of their projects as prices continue to climb. Since January of 2020, the price of building materials has risen just over 31%. That's according to the National Home Builders Association. Both home and commercial projects are feeling a pinch. Joplin Schools Director of Facilities Dave Pettit says they were able to lock in lower prices for the new Dover Hill Elementary.
Between the school district and the architect and Crossing Construction, we worked hard to encourage all of the material vendors to make sure that they immediately placed orders for material to either store on site or to store off site so that you can ensure that you got the best price at the time.
Pettit says it takes a lot of planning to ensure a project comes together smoothly and on budget.
Another thing that we do is competitively bid, which helps make sure that we get the lowest cost possible, or we use co-ops which have built-in competitive pricing within those items as well.
While things are on budget there, emergency expenses can pop up throughout the district.
The great thing is that we have good vendors that we have great relationships with that know, with us being a school district, if things come up that are large enough that are emergency exercise in us approaching that in that repair or replacement, that they're usually willing to work with us and help us find a way to get that issue taken care of before it becomes very problematic.
But even then, that could mean an HVAC unit bought in an emergency could cost considerably more than the same one ordered in advance for Dover Hill. Vetoed says while the majority of items for Dover Hill were purchased in advance, some things have popped up, which have altered the overall cost.
We've had to take some small change orders and things to the school board that we've made available to the public, but it's important that we take the best care of the money available for this project as we can.
Now, the bit of silver lining, the National Home Builders Association says that the cost of steel mill prices has declined nearly 10%. On this date, back in 1876, the Wichita, Kansas Commission votes not to rehire policeman Wyatt Earp after he beats up a candidate for county sheriff. Wyatt had already become a controversial figure well before his move to Tombstone. For much of his life, he worked in law enforcement, but his own allegiance to the rule of law was conditional at best, and his political skills were certainly less refined. Wichita held an election for city marshal in April of '76. An opponent named William Smith challenged Wyatt's boss, Michael Meager, for the office. On April 2nd, Smith made several disparaging remarks about Meager. Wyatt confronted Smith and beat him in a fistfight. Although Meager won re-election, he was unable to save Wyatt's job. The Wichita Commission decided that Wyatt's violent behavior was unacceptable and did not rehire him as a police officer.
Let's remember that Wyatt Earp once put together a posse, and federal marshals then declared the posse illegal, and federal marshals went hunting for Wyatt Earp's posse, who was hunting for, I don't know if that's when they went after Johnny Ringo. I'd have to go back and look that up. But yes, federal marshals declared that we were going to catch Wyatt Earp and his posse. Oh, that had to be some interesting time.
Back in the day, we were talking about the 60s and 70s in America. It applies to the 1860s and 70s too. Things were a bit different.
We were having a conversation right here in the studio last week talking about the importance of the four states when it comes to that time period of history, whether it be the attack on Baxter Springs with William Quantrill and Bloody Bill Anderson, Meridacine, of course the James brothers from Clay County. It's amazing how much of it happened right here. The attack on Newtonia.
We live here.
You've got Quantrill's attack on Lamar, where he burned half the town. It's amazing, like right here in our
right in our immediate area.
I was telling somebody the other day, if you want to take a historical tour, if you're really interested in that period of American history, say Civil War to just post-Civil War, you can just go from town to town, and every four-state town's probably got a story about that time.
Undoubtedly. And the thing is living here, we tend to forget that history because we're
take
surrounded by it.
Yeah.
I had a friend, I know this is obviously a little bit more recent, but I had a friend in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and they learn about the EPA Superfund site in Pitcher.
Really?
They learn about it up there. It's not taught in schools here. I don't remember learning about it in schools because it was
I didn't know about it until I actually moved here.
Daily.
Yeah,
but he said I was talking with him and he mentioned it, and they learn about it just because of its scope and the nature of what it is.
Because of its importance, yeah.
Yeah, but here it's not taught because I know in the 90s it was on the news daily, so we didn't need it taught in classrooms. You just had to tune into local news, and there was a story about it.
I will say that I pass it weekly, so yeah. I think about it quite a bit.
Yeah.
7-day forecast, we'll make it into the 60s after our Tuesday morning frost advisories and freeze warnings. Later on this afternoon, we'll begin with scattered rain north central portion, widespread thunderstorm activity headed our way overnight into Wednesday morning.
Michael, thank you. It's a look at our top stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. War in Ukraine continues to extract a massive toll and that impact is also being felt on the global economy. Take a closer look at how the invasion is driving up prices for some goods. Plus, we've got the story of how one man chose to do the right thing at the gas pumps, and it made us wonder, when's the last time you did a good deed? We'll let you weigh in when we come back. In Consumer Watch this morning, prices are on the rise for just about everything, and now certain industries are being hit even harder because of the war in Ukraine. Nichelle Medina explains.
Farmers are facing growing costs. At Tri-County Fertilizer in Richmond, Kentucky, prices are way up.
Fertilize is up $300 to $400 a ton in some cases $500 to $600 a ton.
Much of the price hikes are from gas prices driving up shipping costs. And now the war in Ukraine is also having an effect.
Russia is the second largest exporter of fertilizer. And with the sanctions and the trade embargoes that we have, it's limiting the amount of supply of fertilizer that's on the marketplace.
Patrick Penfield is a professor of supply chain practice at Syracuse University and says that's making it more expensive to grow crops.
To exacerbate matters, now we have this other issue where now Ukraine is not farming, they're not producing anything, they're not being able to ship stuff out.
Ukraine is one of the world's leading suppliers of wheat, corn, and other grains used in countless products we eat every day. Those supply shortages will likely make the high price of groceries here at home even higher. Businesses like New Jersey's Four City Brewing are also paying more.
Grain has gone up 18, 20, 25 cents a pound. So when you're talking about hundreds, maybe 1,000 pounds per batch, it's a lot of money.
And the price of cans is going up. That's because Russia is a major exporter of aluminum.
I think the problem in the Ukraine is going to ripple, and it's not going to affect us right now, but it's going to affect us in general over the time.
The company hasn't raised prices for their customers yet, but the owners believe they'll eventually have to. Nichelle Medina, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Stocks fell slightly on Monday. The Dow lost 39 points. NASDAQ slid 18. The S&P 500 dropped a fraction. Russia's war against Ukraine is expected to slow global economic growth, according to the World Bank. A new forecast predicts the global economy to grow 3.2% this year, down from its previous estimate of 4.1%. Higher food and fuel costs are also contributing to the lowered prediction. Some packages may take 1 or 2 extra days to get to their destination. In an effort to lower costs, the U.S. Postal Service is slowing delivery times for nearly a third of all first-class packages and reducing its reliance on air transportation, instead using more trains and trucks. New policy goes into effect on May 1st. Taco Bell fans, including myself, you can now rejoice. Take a look at this. After 2 years of petitions. What?
And Diane King Hall.
And Diane King Hall.
Excited about this.
They're bringing back the Mexican pizza. Grammy Award-winning artist Doja Cat made the announcement on stage at Coachella. The popular pizza was taken off the menu during the coronavirus pandemic, but it officially returns on May the 19th. That was what actually introduced me to Taco Bell, was the Mexican pizza. It was pretty good. That is a look at our consumer stories. Michael's with our Something to Talk About.
No, I was so hoping when you were going to say that's it, what introduced me to Taco Bell. I was so hoping you were going to say Doja Cat.
I don't know who that is.
I love you.
I'm really out of touch, and I think it drives my family up the wall.
We'll get Chris indoctrinated on the Doja Cat.
Sounds familiar, but I don't know. I don't know who that is. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. We talked about Carole King earlier, so I figured, demo-wise, it was fair to bring up Doja Cat as well. This morning on our Something to Talk About on the KOAM News Now Insta poll and our Facebook page, good deeds as gas prices soar. One man in Tennessee, well, he went to go fill up his tank and a little computer glitch let him do it for $5.64, but he happens to be a business owner himself. And instead of just bailing and taking it, and he was filling up with premium, by the way, he said, no, I got to make good and make sure that the gas station and its owners get what's actually deserved to them. So our question for you is, when is the last time that you performed a good deed? And 47% of you absolutely love this, and in the 4 states it does not surprise me one bit. 47% of you said it happened yesterday. And then we come back with another additional 47% that was either this week or last week. Appreciate your engagement each and every morning. We're going to come back and celebrate birthdays and anniversaries. But first, off to the Big Apple. Let's check in with Gail.
To you, I'm Gail King, coming right up on CBS Mornings in our new series that we're calling Rebuilding America. We'll introduce you to a group at the forefront of sustainable housing. See why these homes are growing in popularity. That's coming right up on CBS Mornings.
we take this time to honor one of our many four-state heroes. Lowell Martin, Private First Class Martin, served in the Army from 1944 to 46. Served in the European Theater of Operations with the 273rd Infantry Regiment. He earned a Purple Heart and Bronze Star during his service. PFC Martin hails from Carl Junction, and we thank you, today's four-state hero, Lowell Martin.
Aubriana Wiley starts us off. What a marvelous picture of Aubriana and her puppy celebrating her 5th birthday. And kiddo, this comes with love from Mommy, Daddy, Colton, and Toto.
That must be Toto
Aubriana
that
celebrates
she's
in
with.
Yates Center. Got a feeling that's Toto there in the
That has to be Toto.
I betcha.
Maddie York in Weir, Kansas. She is turning 8 years old today. A happy birthday to Maddie.
Got to catch up 1 day short, but I wanted to make sure that we pass along very happy birthday wishes to Keegan Ellison. Nice catch, kiddo. Oh, man. Next time you're out there, Keegan, don't forget about me and Chris. We'll take you up on that. Do a little fishing with us. He's in CJ.
We've got Maddie Logaducci in front.
Maddie Lejatis had herself a day yesterday. Kid getting on base, putting balls in play, driving in runs. Yeah, you did, Lejatis. Yeah, you did.
She started 15. Did a great job yesterday. Michael Hayslip says so. I trust him.
She did. She had a day yesterday.
Well, I am sorry for completely destroying your last
No,
name,
it's not.
Maddie, but
Maddie, we love you, and heck of a game by you, kiddo, and a happy birthday. Rebecca Green celebrating her 17th birthday. A very happy birthday to Rebecca in Crestline.
We've also got Abby West turning 17 in Pittsburgh. A very happy birthday to Abby over in Webb City.
And in Pittsburgh, Heather Bush wishing you a very happy 37th birthday. Great picture right there. The little one hides and takes a nap. Happy birthday, Heather. Donnie Hiddle celebrating a birthday in Miami. And Ashley Omi turning 43. Miss Ashley, a very happy birthday to you in McCune. Here's Chris Warner with a very important birthday announcement.
And it is very important. You can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club by going to our website and signing up. You can get special deals from local businesses. And to do all that, all you got to do is head over to KOAMnewsnow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today. Here's Michael.
Coming up in a bit, we talked about the Boston Marathon. That's 26.2 miles. Well, that gentleman you saw right there, he's hiking 2,000 miles. We're going to find out why coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll be back right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, news you need to know before you head out the door. Cherokee County Sheriff's Office says a suspect in a Baxter Springs shooting should be considered armed and dangerous. An arrest warrant was issued Monday afternoon for 38-year-old Sean Houston. He's wanted on allegations of attempted second-degree murder. State investigators in Kansas have identified a woman killed in an exchange of gunfire. KBI says 32-year-old Andrea Barrow of Arkansas City was killed Friday in Cowley County after she pulled out a handgun as deputies tried to remove her from a vehicle. Investigators said 2 of the deputies are recovering at home. At last report, a 3rd remained hospitalized in good condition. The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation says a suspect waved a bow and arrow at law enforcement in a, quote, threatening manner in a Craig County officer-involved shooting. Agents say the officers found Guy Walker going in and out of his house on his property. They say investigators, when they approached, he pulled out the bow and arrow. Deputy and an officer both fired at Walker. Walker died at the scene. Check out the top of today's top headlines, news you need to know before you head out the door.
Still got temperatures hovering around the freezing mark. Eventually, as we make it up into the 60s, that is followed by some instability that brings us afternoon rain that begins to the north central. And as we work from Tuesday night into Wednesday, that's where we come up with some widespread thunderstorm activity that will affect tomorrow's commute. On the bright side, at least our afternoon highs increase to 70s on Thursday. Chris, how about some sunny skies and 80s by the time we get to Friday?
I'll take it. Compared to what we've been going through, I will certainly take it.
There we go.
Hey, coming up today at noon, you know what we're doing? We're making cheese straws in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Of course, your morning news continues on KOAM. CBS Mornings coming up next. A judge ruling that a mother accused of conspiring to kill her children, her estranged husband, and a lover's wife, now mentally competent to stand trial on some of those charges.
You can switch over with us on Fox 14, where, of course, your only local morning news at 7 a.m. continues. And this morning, we're going to take you to one California cove that has turned into a pod of pelicans. We've got a lot going on.
How about this? Advice to tell triplets apart? We got it.
That's tough.
Hey, stay warm, stay dry, be safe. We'll do this all again tomorrow morning.